and welcome to Change Your Tune. I'm David Hill, the conductor and musical director of the Bach Choir, and this is the very beginning of a work that is very close to our hearts. It's the Kyrie, a plea for God's mercy, which starts off the Mass in B minor by Johann Sebastian Bach. It's important to us because over 150 years ago, in 1876, the Bach Choir was formed to give the first ever performance of the work on UK soil. The original idea for the performance and the choir came from Arthur Duke Coleridge. He was a young lawyer and an amateur singer who got to know the Mass while he was a student in Leipzig, where also Bach lived and worked from 1723. In those days, it wasn't often performed in its entirety, even in Germany. Coleridge persuaded a number of his friends, including the German composer and conductor Otto Goldschmidt, to help him put on a concert in London. Their first rehearsal happened in the Kensington basement of Coleridge's friend, property tycoon Charles Freak. It was no ordinary basement. He'd had a private theatre installed there. Otto was married to a singer called Jenny Lind, who was known as the Swedish Nightingale, and she helped coach the would-be performers. About 65 singers attended the first rehearsal, and within 6 months, they'd assembled a choir. They gave 2 performances of the Mass, conducted by Otto Goldschmidt, on the 26th of April and the 8th of May 1876. It was a great success. The Times said it was an excellent performance, and this gave them enough encouragement to form a permanent choir, with Otto Goldschmidt as its first musical director. There have been some very famous musical names in that role since then. Musical directors including Charles Villiers Stanford, Ralph Vaughan Williams, Adrian Bolt, David Wilcox, and, well, me. I'm only the 9th musical director in the 150 years. The choir's aim when it started was the practice and performance of choral works of excellence and of various schools, and nothing changes. I think we've been singing music of excellence and of various schools ever since. But the B minor Mass has always been particularly special to us. And not just because it's the reason we exist at all, but because it is quite an extraordinary piece of music.
As it happens, my favourite Bach work is choral, and it's the B minor Mass. I must admit the title put me off before I got to know the music, because I thought minor, that sounds sort of depressing. But of course it isn't. It's a work filled with joy. It's Bach absolutely at full tilt, firing on all 12 cylinders. It's a marvellous work. I never grow tired of it, and it's rather lovely to think that the Bach Choir was founded in 1876, especially to perform it.
One of the things that makes the B minor Mass so interesting is the way it came about. It was officially completed in 1749, which is just a year before Bach died. The B minor Mass is a huge piece. It has 4 major sections and is scored for a choir, up to 8 parts in places, and takes around 2 hours to perform. So why did he decide to write something on such a grand scale at this stage of his career? Well, the answer is he didn't. He assembled it gradually, over the course of decades, bringing together new material but reworking earlier compositions. This practice of what's called parody in composition terms, that's adapting existing music to new texts, wasn't seen as plagiarism, that's called copying. It was an acceptable way of refining and crystallizing musical ideas worth preserving. In the Mass, Bach takes some of his most inspired writing and elevates it into a new, integrated musical and theological statement. It's been described as a cathedral of music. There are other things that make the work unusual. It's based around the traditional Roman Catholic Latin Mass, something a lot of composers have used as a template over the centuries. But Bach was a composer attached to a church. His job was to create sacred music. But he wasn't a Catholic, and St. Thomas's wasn't a Catholic church. They were Lutheran after Martin Luther, the German monk whose ideas were anti-Catholic. In fact, Lutherans were early Protestants. But while the choice may seem surprising, in Bach's world, the Latin Mass was widely used in many church contexts. So he uses 5 of the usual sections of the Catholic Mass. Each of these is divided up again, giving the Mass a total of 27 movements. They include a huge variety of musical styles, both for all the soloists involved and the players. By choosing the Mass, Bach aligns himself with centuries of sacred music, positioning his work not as a response to the specific needs of his immediate surroundings, but as a contribution to the entire Christian musical inheritance. And so the work opens with the Kyrie, Lord have mercy. This is in 3 sections. Kyrie, Christe, Kyrie. Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy. And you've heard the amazing declamatory few bars that start this work, which, if you had to say bars you've got to keep in life to listen to again and again and again, they would be mine. And then he takes us into, I think, what could have been a lament, written in 1733 on the death of Augustus II. And this really sounds incredibly mournful. Just have a listen. This then leads into the Christe Eleison, Christ have mercy, which could not be more different, a duet for the upper voices. Once that has happened, and it's not a long duet, it leads to the 3rd section, another Kyrie. And this one is the most, if I could call it, harmonically angular of all the music so far. Just listen to the closeness of the notes that make up what we call the subject, which is the main theme of the Kyrie. And so on. And that happens all the way through the 4-part texture in the choir. The movement that always follows the Kyrie is the Gloria. Much more spirited, much more uplifting in many, many ways. And whereas the Kyrie was probably written because of the death of Augustus II, this is Bach's reaction to the accession to the throne of Augustus III as King of Poland, Duke of Lithuania, and Elector of Saxony. And it has such a spirited, buoyant opening. But the Gloria section also carries other drama. Movements like Qui tollis peccata mundi, you who take away the sins of the world. They're darker, more inward-looking. I'm going to play you a little of this, which comes out of very buoyant singing from 2 soloists into something quite different. And he has the choir singing in 4 parts, and the accompaniment of the orchestra is completely independent with solo flute parts. So your ear is taken from listening to them to listening to the counterpoint, the weaving of the sounds in the choral parts. Listen to the flute. And so on. Suddenly faster moving music on the top of what is almost like a chorale with the words from the choir. This is music that actually he composed in 1723 and was in an earlier cantata.
Hello, I'm Harry Gregson-Williams. I'm a film composer, and I've been fortunate enough to have the Bach Choir sing on many of my scores, going back to, I think, Kingdom of Heaven, perhaps, was the first score that the Bach Choir sang on. So I'd like to wish the Bach Choir and all its happy followers an amazing 150th anniversary.
In the middle of the Gloria movement is the setting of the words, Gratias agimus tibi, we give thanks to thee, O God. It starts in a very calm, probably fairly slow way, but it's a kind of magisterial honor of the Almighty. And this music was actually taken from an earlier cantata in 1731, number 29. Sounds like this. Perfection, really, in 4 parts. He uses the same music for the very end of the work, so he must have thought it wasn't bad. The Credo follows the Gloria and is the intellectual and spiritual heart of the Mass. Here the music becomes architectural. Statements of belief are matched to musical forms that communicate theological meaning. It is thought that Bach composed this entire movement in the last 3 years of his life. In the middle of the Credo is Et incarnatus est, and was made flesh. The movement is a slow unfolding prayer. It's as if Bach is writing this on his knees. Just listen to a little bit of it. It begins with these almost sighing moments. We call them appoggiaturas, just notes next to each other, just giving us a sense of sighing. And then the choir sing a chorale on the top of all of this. This was probably the last music that Bach wrote, this particular movement. Sanctus, Sanctus, Sanctus. The Sanctus is a hymn of praise. It's a canticle of praise, radiant, filled with glittering textures that seem to suggest the endlessness of heaven, of angels dancing around. It's music designed to feel cosmic and make us all feel much better. The main idea behind Change Your Tune is to look at the way classical music, choral music in particular, is more part of life than many people think. And we hope to get more people to listen to it. With these anniversary programs, we're doing that with Bach. His music touches nearly everybody who hears it, and it appears in all kinds of guises, not just in concert halls.
Diminished chords like when you see a drunk guy on the train. You're like, what's he gonna do, man?
Aidan Jones grew up in Australia and was all set to become a professional pianist until life took a different turn. In 2025, he had a successful show at the Edinburgh Fringe all about Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat for piano, which earned some really rave reviews. And he's currently developing a new show about Bach. So, welcome, Aidan. What was your initial relationship with Bach? It was a little ambivalent, perhaps, was it?
Yeah, I was supposed to play a Bach invention, the D minor invention in 2 parts for my audition to the conservatory. And I just never really got into the music of Bach. You know, my teacher had me playing Beethoven, which I loved, and some Mozart and a bit of Debussy. But she kept trying to kind of push me into this Bach, and I just wasn't really, I didn't like the music, I didn't understand it. And then when it came to auditioning for the conservatory after school, it was a requirement that you had to play a piece with counterpoint. And she gave me this piece, the Bach invention in D minor.
The 2-part.
The 2-part invention. And I just remember it sitting on the piano for like weeks, and I was supposed to learn it and I didn't learn it, and I finished school and I did all the partying at the end of school, and the audition came and I took the music into the audition and just thought, I'll just read it from the music, and I put it in front of me. So if you know the piece, it's the one, you know, the right hand. Yeah, and the left, and if you play them together. And so on. And it's like, especially for someone who had never done counterpoint before, it's kind of hard to put the two together, let alone read it. So when the examiner in the audition asked me, you know, I played Claire de Lune, and she was like, beautiful, Aidan, thank you. Can we hear your Bach? And this was what she got.
Hilarious.
Just this kind of angry little dude screaming at the piano, and she went, thank you, that will be enough.
So what got you into Bach?
After the audition, I kind of fell away from playing piano altogether. I would just play, you know, you see a piano at a train station, I'd sit down and have a little tinkle. But it wasn't until after about 10 years of stand-up, the pandemic hit and I couldn't do stand-up anymore. And I, just to fill the time, came back to playing the piano, and I started playing Chopin, and I loved it, and I found a teacher in Melbourne and was exploring the piano again. And Bach was like my white whale, you know? And I thought, I've got to go back. And then coupled with that, also, I learned about Chopin that Bach was his favorite composer. And I don't know if you know this story about Chopin, but when he went away with Georges Sand, when he was in this new relationship, they went to Mallorca for a holiday. The only 2 books that he took with him were the Well-Tempered Clavier, book 1 and 2. And his idea of fun on the holiday was he'd found some mistakes in the printed editions, and he was planning on correcting those mistakes. So that was enough for me to go, like, I love Chopin. If he is giving this much credit to Bach, then clearly there's something that I've missed.
So tell us a little bit more about this show you're developing.
Basically, I want to show people who have no interest or no previous interest in classical music how they can relate to it. I've been trying to explain Bach and like harmony with something that's like a bit more approachable. The way that harmony works is these notes relate to each other because of the frequencies that they have that they share. So like if the frequency is 440 vibrations per second, an octave up is doubled, 880, right? So the ratio of those is 1 to 2. And the brain our brain likes when frequencies have simple ratios, right? So if you get more complicated, like 2 to 3, that's a fifth, still pretty simple. 3 to 4 is a perfect fourth. I don't know what these numbers are. I think that's 5 to 6, and that's 7 to 8, that's a second, and then 15 to 16, a semitone. Sounds quite jarring. I like to explain that to people as being like, if you imagine a couple and you're close with your partner when you eat a meal together, right? So the more frequently you eat a meal together, the closer you're going to be as a couple. This couple here, for every time this person wants to eat, this person wants to eat twice. So it's like, so they're quite close, yeah? Maybe this person wants to eat once a day, this person twice a day. So every day they eat together once. This couple, every 2 days. This couple, every 3 days they eat together. This couple, 15 to 16, they eat together like once every 2 and a bit weeks. So they're not as close as a couple, right? But the most dissonant interval that we have on the piano, the tritone, the ratio is 1 to the square root of 2. The square root of 2 is a number, the decimal point never ends or repeats. This couple, they never eat together. This one is like, eating in the shower. This guy's having grilled cheese sandwiches at night. They never eat together. And so as a couple, as an interval, they're quite dissonant, But what Bach kind of realized, because that interval was the interval that was banned by the church in church music, right? The devil in music, yeah. Bach and the people, the kind of musicians of that time realized that, yes, this is dissonant, but it's also beautiful because you have the dissonance and it leads you to the resolution. It kind of pulls you towards something. And I was listening to a podcast of a few comedians talking recently, nothing to do with music, but a comedian that I love said, I think this is so beautiful. He said, I don't really like coffee, but I drink a coffee every morning because it makes me want a cigarette. Like the beautiful thing is wanting the thing and then getting it. Cigarettes, I don't know about that for me, but I kind of think about like, okay, when I love eating a Chinese takeaway, but the best part of the Chinese takeaway for me is at the end, I crack open my can of Coke. Because eating the Chinese for the whole time makes me go, God, I want a Coke. And it's like, that's the Chinese takeaway. And then that's a can of Coke.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, nice one. I'll be honest with you, during the lockdowns, COVID, I had a daily kind of moment with Bach.
Yeah.
12 o'clock.
12
Just
o'clock?
after coffee, actually.
The coffee makes you want a Bach. So the new show that I'm writing, my idea is to kind of create it around the C major prelude and then the accompanying fugue, and kind of break that down for people, because the C major prelude, it's like the mission statement of the whole thing, and it's like it's almost like the abstract of an essay. He's stating it in the simplest possible terms to then go on and like elaborate on this idea of harmony and tonality and everything. Let me play for you now the prelude and fugue with, like I said, I'm trying to kind of figure out a way to explain this tension and release and these patterns of tension and release to an audience that have never really delved into this kind of music. And in the prelude, a big part of the tension and release is you've got these cadences that then they don't settle, they kind of continue on. So you have the tension, a bit of the release, but then the tension immediately starts building again. And I was trying to think about when do I feel like that in my life, that I'm like about to get something and then it's not quite. And it's kind of like Friday night waiting for service at the bar, Busy bar, you get there at the start, you're looking at the bartender and you're like, oh, here he comes. Yep, got the first guy. And you're about to order, but then he goes to someone else. You're like, okay, it's fine. You see another one. Maybe this lady's gonna serve me. Get excited, yep, I got my order in my head. And you're about to tell, but then she's going on break. No, she's not ready yet. Surely this guy, here we go, another guy coming through. I'm really ready now. My mates are over there looking at me. I'm about to give my order, and then this guy behind me jumps in. Are you kidding me? How dare you? I'm so mad now. I'm looking around going, the next guy who comes, that's my bartender. Get out of my way. Yep, here he comes. He's coming closer. He leans in, the music's loud, and I tell him, 3 beers, please, mate. He goes away, he's pulling the beers. I'm high-fiving people, And then he says, 28 pounds. I'm like, no way.
That's terrific. Yeah, you can put it. It's a lovely story. That I mean, it just, it just anything that kind of lightens up the mind. Isn't it?
And makes it like relatable to something that because this music is relatable. It's speaking to the most basic of human experiences and emotions.
Well, thanks so much, Aidan. It's been such a pleasure hearing you and talking with you. When can we hear you and performing next, and where?
So I'm doing my show, Chopin's Nocturne, a little bit around the country, Leicester Comedy Festival, Glasgow Comedy Festival in the next couple months. Then I'll be doing it at Assembly at the Edinburgh Fringe in August, and then a much larger national tour in October and November, so all around the UK. And I'll be doing my show about Bach in a kind of early form on the Free Fringe at the Edinburgh Fringe this August as well.
Great, thank you.
Hi, we're the Wellermen, and we'd like to wish the Bach Choir a huge congratulations on their 150th anniversary.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Let's go. Yeah.
Keep singing.
Back to the B minor Mass. At last we come to the final movement, the Agnus Dei, the Lamb of God, and the Dona Nobis Pacem, which follows, bring us peace. It's for a solo singer, an alto, and violins, and they, between them, pass this conversation of the wonderful words that are Agnus Dei qui tollis peccata mundi. And like so often in Bach's music, what you hear at the very beginning isn't what necessarily happens in terms of the vocalist's contribution. Listen to this. This is what they sing. It's another weaving melody which is quite different from what you heard at the very beginning. Finally, the Mass concludes in a prayerful but ultimately triumphant way. In Dona Nobis Pacem, grant us peace. And as I said earlier, the music is drawn from Gratias Agimus Tibi from the Gloria. It's as though Bach is saying peace is not something new, and indeed, they were experiencing things that were far from being peaceful. And so nothing ever changes. This is the last statement from Bach in his truly remarkable work. The variety of musical treatment is one of the things that makes this work so well loved and appreciated in Western music. Yet for all this variety, the work is massively unified, tightly unified by Bach's command of structure, harmonic pacing, and rhetorical shaping of the words and their theology. This is music that teaches. It shows how faith can be expressed in musical form. It is the finest prayer in music. Remarkably, there is no evidence that the full Mass was performed in Bach's lifetime and that he experienced it, though he did know all of the music and had performed it in other ways. It was just too large, too demanding. It only really came into its own long after his death, particularly in the 19th century when Bach was rediscovered, especially through the efforts of the composer Felix Mendelssohn. By the late 19th and 20th centuries, the Mass came to be seen as one of the great moral and artistic monuments of European culture, a work invoked in moments of grief, national reflection, and aspiration. That's it for this special 150th anniversary edition of Change Your Tune from the Bach Choir. Thank you very much indeed to Aidan Jones for telling us about Comedy Bach. I hope you've enjoyed it and maybe discovered something you didn't know before about this iconic composer and about his Mass in B minor. If you're listening to this before May 2026, you can come and hear us perform the piece on Tuesday the 26th of May at the Royal Festival Hall. Plus, to discover the stories behind more of the most famous choral pieces on the planet, search for Change Your Tune wherever you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to hear more about the Bach Choir, make sure you sign up to our newsletter where you'll be sent loads of fun choral content every month, including full-length concert videos and much more. I'll leave you in the incredible hands of Johann Sebastian Bach. Till the next time, goodbye.